Welcome back to the channel Valuable Coins HD, coin collectors and enthusiasts. Today, we're going to uncover the hidden value of a coin that might be sitting in your pocket right now, the 1975 Lincoln penny. While most pennies are just part of our everyday change, this particular one has the potential to be worth far more than its humble face value. Stick around as we dive deep into the fascinating world of the 1975 Lincoln penny and explore just how much it could be worth today. The Lincoln penny, first introduced in 1909, is one of the most iconic and recognized coins in the United States. It's a coin that's been part of our daily lives for over a century, but many people don't realize that certain years, like 1975, hold a special place in the world of coin collecting. As part of the ongoing effort to honor Abraham Lincoln, the Lincoln penny features his portrait on the obverse and, for much of its history, the Lincoln Memorial on the reverse. Over the years, the design has changed, but it has always maintained a strong connection to U.S. history. Now, let's talk about the 1975 Lincoln penny. On the surface, this might seem like just another penny, and indeed, millions of these coins were produced for everyday circulation. However, the value of this coin is tied not just to its age or historical significance, but also to its condition and any special features that make it stand out. So, what is it that makes a 1975 Lincoln penny potentially worth much more than just 1 cent? First, let's take a step back and talk about the context of 1975. The United States was in the midst of major political and social changes. Watergate had just rocked the nation, the Vietnam War had ended, and the U.S. economy was experiencing inflation. During this period, the U.S. Mint was still cranking out billions of pennies, with the 1975 Lincoln penny being one of them. In fact, it was a busy year for coin production. However, as is often the case with coins that were widely circulated, most of the 1975 pennies ended up in daily use, which means they were subject to the usual wear and tear over time. This is where things get interesting. The condition of a coin is incredibly important when determining its value. A coin that has been in circulation for years will almost certainly show signs of damage. However, finding a 1975 Lincoln penny in pristine, uncirculated condition is like finding a hidden treasure. Many of these pennies were used in daily transactions, leading to scratches, dings, and discoloration. But some coins were kept safe, carefully stored away by collectors or even individuals who simply didn't use all their pennies. These well-preserved coins are what collectors are after, and they can fetch a much higher price, but that's not the only thing that can make a 1975 Lincoln penny valuable. Like many coins, there are minting errors that make some of these pennies highly sought after. Minting errors occur when something goes wrong during the production process, and the result is a coin that's not quite like the others. For the 1975 penny, some of the most desirable errors are double strikes, where the coin has been struck twice by the minting press, causing the design to overlap. There are also off-center strikes, where the design is misaligned, and die cracks that can give the coin an interesting appearance. Coins with minting errors are particularly valuable to collectors because they are unique. Unlike regular coins that were produced in large quantities, error coins are one of a kind, and their rarity is what makes them so appealing. A 1975 Lincoln penny with a double strike or an off-center strike can dramatically increase its value, especially if the error is particularly noticeable. If you happen to find one of these, it could be worth much more than just the price of a regular penny. Another factor that affects the value of the 1975 Lincoln penny is its scarcity in high-quality grades. Coins are graded on a scale from 1 to 70, with 70 being perfect. Most coins, especially those that have been in circulation, are graded much lower. However, finding a 1975 penny that's been carefully preserved and is graded highly can make a huge difference. A mint state 67 or higher 1975 Lincoln penny is considered to be in excellent condition and would be highly prized by collectors. Coins in such pristine condition can fetch far higher prices than those that are worn or damaged. Now, let's get to the most exciting part, the potential value of the 1975 Lincoln penny. If you happen to have one of these rare and pristine coins, especially one with a minting error or in uncirculated condition, then you could be holding on to a small fortune. In fact, A 1975 Lincoln penny in top condition could be worth as much as $68,000, that's right, $68,000 for a single penny. It might sound unbelievable, but this is the reality of rare coin collecting. A 1975 Lincoln penny that's in pristine condition or has a minting error is incredibly valuable to collectors, and the price can skyrocket depending on the rarity of the coin and the demand in the market. So, how can you determine if your 1975 Lincoln penny is worth anything close to that amount? First, take a close look at its condition. Is it still shiny and crisp, or has it been worn down by years of circulation? Next, check for any minting errors. Are there any signs of double strikes, off-center designs, or die cracks? And if you're unsure about the value of your coin, it's always a good idea to have it professionally graded by a trusted coin grading service. In conclusion, the 1975 Lincoln penny may look like a simple coin, but it's packed with history and value. If you happen to own one in excellent condition or with a minting error, you could be holding onto a coin worth far more than its face value. Remember, condition and rarity are everything in the world of coin collecting, and sometimes even a penny can be worth a small fortune. Today, we're diving into the fascinating world of the 1973 Lincoln penny, a coin that may seem ordinary at first, but could be worth a small fortune. That's right, a simple penny from 1973 could have a value far beyond its face value, and by the end of this video, you'll see exactly why. The Lincoln penny, one of the most iconic coins in U.S. history, was first introduced in 1909 to commemorate the 100th anniversary of Abraham Lincoln's birth. Ever since, this small copper coin has been in circulation, with millions produced every year. However, some years, like 1973, hold unique value for collectors, and today, we're going to explore why. You might be surprised to find that the 1973 Lincoln penny is far more than just another piece of change. Before we jump into the details of its value, let's take a brief moment to discuss the context of 1973. The United States was in the midst of the Vietnam War's aftermath, the Watergate scandal was unfolding, and the country was facing both political and economic shifts. It was a time of change, and the U.S. Mint was busy cranking out billions of coins to meet the demands of an ever-growing economy. Among these coins was the 1973 Lincoln penny, simple in design but potentially valuable under the right circumstances. Now, the 1973 penny itself is a relatively common coin, minted in large quantities. But just because a coin is common doesn't necessarily mean it doesn't hold value, especially when you consider rarity, condition, and special features like minting errors. While millions of these pennies were produced, there's a reason why some of them could be worth far more than just 1 cent. And that reason comes down to a few important factors. The first factor to consider is condition. Like many other coins, the state of preservation can make a huge difference in value. A worn, circulated coin will typically be worth very little, if anything more than its face value. However, a pristine, uncirculated 1973 Lincoln penny, one that has been kept in excellent condition, could be worth far more. These coins are rare because most pennies, including those from 1973, were used in day-to-day transactions, meaning they were subjected to wear and tear. So, if you happen to have one that is uncirculated or in mint condition, it's definitely worth taking a closer look. But there's another factor that makes the 1973 Lincoln penny stand out from the rest: minting errors. Coins that are struck with minting errors are highly sought after by collectors. These errors are created when something goes wrong during the production process, and as a result, the coin is not struck the way it was intended. For the 1973 penny, some of the most interesting minting errors include double strikes, off-center strikes, die cracks, and clipped planchets. These errors are often accidental, but to collectors, they are incredibly valuable because they make the coin unique and one-of-a-kind. If you come across a 1973 penny with any of these minting errors, it's definitely worth investigating further. A double strike, for example, happens when the coin is struck by the minting press twice, causing the design to overlap. This is a rare occurrence, and coins with double strikes often fetch high prices at auctions or from collectors looking for something out of the ordinary. Similarly, off-center strikes, where the design appears to be misaligned, are also highly collectible. These minting errors make the coin stand out from the billions of normal pennies produced in 1973. Another thing to keep in mind is the rarity of a well-preserved 1973 Lincoln penny. While many of these coins are still in circulation, a high-grade coin, one that is free from scratches, discoloration, or signs of heavy wear, is much rarer than you might think. This is especially true for coins that have been stored away for decades, hidden in collections or in coin jars. So, if you're lucky enough to find a 1973 Lincoln penny that's in excellent shape, you may have just stumbled upon something valuable. But what about the mint mark? The 1973 Lincoln penny features the obverse design of Abraham Lincoln, as always, along with the famous Lincoln Memorial on the reverse. The mint mark on these coins can also make a difference in their value. The 1973 penny was minted in both Philadelphia and Denver, and while both versions are relatively common, a penny minted in Philadelphia without a mint mark may be seen as slightly more desirable, particularly if it has a rare minting error. So, how much could a 1973 Lincoln penny really be worth? If you've got one of these pennies in pristine condition or with an impressive minting error, you could be looking at a much higher value than you'd expect. In fact, certain 1973 pennies have been known to sell for a stunning $70,000, that's right, $70,000 for a single penny. While most 1973 pennies are worth only a few cents, a rare one with the right condition, or perhaps a unique minting error, can fetch a small fortune. These pennies are like hidden treasures, just waiting to be discovered. If you think about it, it's amazing that something as small and common as a 1973 Lincoln penny could have such a huge value attached to it, especially if it's in mint condition or has a rare flaw. So, if you have a 1973 Lincoln penny lying around, it's worth giving it a second glance. Check its condition, look for any signs of minting errors, and if you're not sure about its value, it's always a good idea to have it professionally graded. A certified coin in great condition could be worth far more than you might have ever imagined. Today, we're talking about a coin that could be sitting in your pocket right now, completely unnoticed, until you realize its potential value. We're diving deep into the world of the 1964 Lincoln penny, and believe me, this coin is not as ordinary as it might seem at first glance. The 1964 Lincoln penny is a true classic, and while millions of them were minted that year, there's a reason why some of these pennies are worth much more than their face value. If you've ever wondered if an old penny could be worth a small fortune, you might want to keep watching, because this coin is more valuable than you can imagine. Before we get into the details, let's take a moment to reflect on the year 1964. The United States was undergoing a lot of changes, both politically and economically. In the midst of the civil rights movement, the country was also dealing with the aftermath of President John F. Kennedy's tragic assassination. 1964 was the year that saw the final production of silver coins in the U.S. Mint, which makes the 1964 Lincoln penny particularly significant in the world of numismatics. It's part of an era that marked the end of one phase of coin production and the beginning of another. But what makes the 1964 Lincoln penny so special in terms of its value? Well, it all comes down to a few key factors: rarity, condition, and even the occasional minting error. As we dive deeper, you'll see how these elements come together to create a coin that could be worth far more than just 1 cent. First, let's talk about rarity. While millions of 1964 Lincoln pennies were struck, not all of them are created equal. Most of them were used in daily transactions, which means they've likely suffered wear and tear over the years. However, there are still some 1964 pennies that have remained in pristine condition, and these are the ones that hold significant value in the eyes of collectors. When we talk about pristine condition, we're referring to coins that are uncirculated, coins that have never been used in commerce and show no signs of wear. These coins are incredibly rare, and finding a 1964 Lincoln penny in mint condition is like discovering a hidden treasure. The value of such a penny can skyrocket, especially if it's graded highly by a professional service like PCGS or NGC. So, what does it mean for a 1964 penny to be uncirculated? Well, these coins have no signs of scratches, discoloration, or fading. They look as though they were just minted yesterday, which makes them extremely desirable to collectors. And when a coin is in this kind of mint state, its value can increase exponentially. But what about other factors, such as minting errors? This is where things get really exciting. Minting errors are what make some coins stand out from the rest. These errors happen during the production process, when something goes wrong in the minting press, causing the coin to be struck incorrectly. For the 1964 Lincoln penny, this could mean things like double strikes, where the design appears twice on the coin, or off-center strikes, where the image is misaligned. Minting errors like these are incredibly rare, and collectors often pay top dollar for coins that display them. Another type of error that could boost the value of a 1964 penny is the die crack. This happens when a crack forms in the die used to strike the coin, leaving a noticeable line or fracture mark on the coin. While these are relatively rare, they are highly prized by collectors because they create a unique piece of history. Now, let's talk about the mintage itself. The 1964 Lincoln penny was produced in large numbers, but what makes certain coins stand out is their mint mark. This penny was minted in two major locations, the Philadelphia Mint and the Denver Mint. Coins from the Philadelphia Mint have no mint mark, while coins from the Denver Mint are marked with a small d. In terms of value, the Philadelphia 1964 Lincoln penny without a mint mark is often a bit more desirable, but it's all about finding the coin in the right condition, whether it's from Philadelphia or Denver. One of the most significant things that sets the 1964 Lincoln penny apart from other pennies is the composition. The 1964 penny was made from 95% copper and 5% tin and zinc, giving it a distinctive look and feel compared to pennies minted in later years. In fact, the 1964 penny is one of the last to be made with this high copper content before the composition was changed in 1982. This is a big part of why collectors still seek out these pennies today. There's a historical significance to them. So, how much can a 1964 Lincoln penny be worth? Well, if you happen to have one that is in mint condition, uncirculated, or contains a rare minting error, you could be sitting on a small fortune. In fact, some of these pennies have sold for an incredible amount at auctions. A 1964 Lincoln penny, if in perfect condition or with a desirable error, can be worth as much as $78,000, that's right, $78,000 for a single penny. It's amazing to think that a coin as humble as the 1964 Lincoln penny, which is often overlooked in pocket change, could fetch such a high price. If you've got one of these hidden treasures tucked away in your collection or coin jar, it might be time to take a closer look. Who knows, your 1964 penny could be worth far more than you ever imagined. Today, we've got a real treat for you, a coin that could be sitting in your collection right now, possibly worth a small fortune. We're talking about the 1976 Lincoln penny with a mint mark, a coin that's more than just a piece of currency, it's a piece of American history, and some of these pennies could be worth far more than you ever imagined. Now, when most people think about a penny, they probably don't imagine it could be worth anything more than 1 cent. But when it comes to certain coins, especially those with unique characteristics or rarity, their value can skyrocket. And the 1976 Lincoln penny is a perfect example of this phenomenon. If you think you might have one of these hidden gems tucked away in your change jar or a box of old coins, stick around because this coin could be worth a lot more than you think. Let's rewind to 1976 for a moment. This year was pivotal in American history. The country was celebrating its 200th birthday, the bicentennial, marking 200 years of independence. To commemorate this historic event, the U.S. Mint introduced some special designs, including a revamped look for the quarter, the half dollar, and the dollar coin. While the 1976 quarter is probably the most famous for its bicentennial redesign, the 1976 Lincoln penny also has its own interesting story. The 1976 penny was struck just as the country was immersed in bicentennial celebrations. But unlike the commemorative coins that featured new designs, the 1976 Lincoln penny kept the familiar and timeless design that we all know, the portrait of Abraham Lincoln on the obverse side and the Lincoln Memorial on the reverse. However, there's something about this penny that makes it particularly valuable to collectors, and that's the condition, the rarity, and some key factors that set it apart from others minted that same year. Let's start with rarity. Unlike other years where there may have been more circulation, the 1976 penny was produced in huge numbers by the Philadelphia Mint and the Denver Mint. While that means the majority of them are not worth more than 1 cent, certain ones, especially those in unblemished, uncirculated condition, can be worth a significant amount of money. Coins that have never been used in everyday transactions, coins that have stayed in pristine condition, are extremely rare. Collectors and investors are always on the lookout for these types of coins, as they hold far greater value than their circulated counterparts. The value of a 1976 penny also heavily depends on its grade. You may be asking, what exactly is a grade? In the coin world, a grade refers to the condition of the coin. Coins are graded on a scale from 1 to 70, with 70 being perfect condition, just as they came from the mint. Coins that are in higher grades, with no scratches, discoloration, or wear and tear, are the ones that tend to fetch the highest prices. If you're lucky enough to have a 1976 Lincoln penny that is in MS 65 or higher condition, you're in for a real treat. But there's one more element that can really make a 1976 penny stand out: mint errors. Minting errors are like the wild cards of coin collecting. These occur when something goes wrong during the minting process, resulting in a coin that's imperfect, unusual, or just downright rare. For the 1976 Lincoln penny, there have been reports of off-center strikes, double strikes, and die cracks, all of which are errors that can significantly increase the coin's value. A double-struck penny, for example, is a coin that was struck twice by the minting press, causing the design to appear twice on the coin. These error coins are highly sought after because they are unique and very rare. Another error to look out for is the off-center strike, where the design of the coin is not aligned properly, making the image appear shifted or incomplete. This type of error is another reason why collectors are willing to pay a premium for these pennies. Now, let's talk about mint marks. If you're holding a 1976 penny, it's important to check for the mint mark, which indicates where the coin was produced. Coins minted in Philadelphia have no mint mark, while those minted in Denver have a small d on the reverse. While both varieties can be valuable depending on their condition, pennies with mint marks can sometimes fetch a higher price due to their relative scarcity compared to those minted in Philadelphia. But, what can the 1976 Lincoln penny actually be worth? If you've got a 1976 penny that's in uncirculated condition, minted without a mint mark, or has a unique error, you could be sitting on a valuable piece of history. It's no surprise that rare 1976 pennies with perfect condition or an unusual mint error can fetch impressive prices at auctions and private sales. If you happen to have one of these gems, it could be worth as much as $63,000. Yes, you heard that right, $63,000 for a single penny. That's how valuable a well-preserved 1976 Lincoln penny can be. When you think about it, it's incredible to consider how a simple penny from a special year could be worth so much. So, the next time you find yourself sorting through old coins or glancing at your pocket change, take a closer look at that 1976 penny. It might just be worth a small fortune. Today, we're focusing on a coin that you may have lying around in your collection or tucked away in a jar of change, a coin that's often overlooked but could be worth a small fortune. That's right, we're talking about the 1975 Lincoln penny. At first glance, the 1975 penny may seem like just another 1-cent coin, part of the many millions minted over the years. But don't let its size or familiar design fool you. In the world of numismatics, this seemingly ordinary penny has a history and potential value that can truly surprise you. With a little bit of luck, the 1975 Lincoln penny you own could be worth more than you think. Let's go back in time for a moment. The year 1975 was an interesting one in the United States. It was a year marked by the end of the Vietnam War, the rise of new technologies, and the ever-growing culture of change in America. For the U.S. Mint, 1975 was part of a transitional period, where they were working on new designs and methods for minting coins. As with any year, the 1975 penny was produced in large quantities. But like many years before and after, only a small fraction of those pennies have survived in pristine condition, making those that remain incredibly valuable to collectors today. Before we get into the details of what makes the 1975 Lincoln penny so special, let's take a quick look at its design. As you know, the Lincoln penny has been in circulation since 1909, when it was first introduced to honor the 16th President of the United States, Abraham Lincoln. The design has remained mostly unchanged for over a century. On the obverse, we see a portrait of Abraham Lincoln, a powerful and timeless image that has come to symbolize the values of freedom, unity, and the American spirit. On the reverse, the familiar Lincoln Memorial stands as a tribute to Lincoln's legacy. So, what's so special about the 1975 penny? While this coin was widely circulated, it's what's rare about it that makes it valuable. First, let's talk about condition. Coins in mint condition, especially those that have never been circulated, are much rarer than you might think. Most of the 1975 pennies you come across will have some degree of wear, scratches, discoloration, or fading that comes from years of handling. However, if you happen to have a 1975 penny that is uncirculated, meaning it has been kept in pristine condition, then you're looking at a coin that could be worth a lot more than its face value, but condition is just one factor that determines a coin's value. Another factor that makes the 1975 penny stand out is its mint mark. Coins minted in Philadelphia that year do not have a mint mark, while those minted in Denver carry a small D on the reverse. The presence of this mint mark can sometimes play a role in the coin's value, especially if the coin was struck with an error or if it's in an exceptional state of preservation. Speaking of errors, the 1975 penny has a unique place in the world of minting errors. Minting errors can occur when something goes wrong during the manufacturing process, resulting in a coin that's different from the rest. In the case of the 1975 Lincoln penny, error coins such as off-center strikes, double strikes, and die cracks are highly sought after by collectors. A double-struck penny, for instance, is one that was struck twice by the minting press, which creates a double image. These types of coins can fetch a premium because they are one of a kind and can't be replicated. Another interesting feature of the 1975 penny is its composition. While pennies before 1982 were made of 95% copper and 5% zinc, the 1975 penny is part of this traditional copper-based design. As copper prices have risen over the years, the copper content in pennies has also become a point of interest. Some collectors seek out pennies from these years for their copper value alone, which adds an extra layer of potential value for the 1975 Lincoln penny. So, what is the 1975 penny worth? If you have a 1975 penny in near-perfect condition, one that has avoided scratches, discoloration, and wear over the years, you could be holding on to a rare and valuable coin. And if you're lucky enough to have a 1975 penny with a minting error or a particularly rare feature, the value skyrockets even further. In fact, some of these 1975 pennies can be worth an astounding $66,000. Yes, you read that right, $66,000 for a single penny. It's incredible to think that a coin, which many people simply discard or overlook, could be worth so much. So, the next time you're going through your pocket change or sorting through old coins, be sure to give that 1975 Lincoln penny a closer look. It could be your ticket to a small fortune. Whether you're an experienced coin collector or a newcomer to the world of numismatics, the 1975 Lincoln penny is a perfect example of how rare and valuable coins can be hidden in plain sight. Remember, it's all about the condition, the rarity, and, of course, the minting errors that could make all the difference. So keep your eyes peeled and always check your pennies. You never know when one could be worth more than its face value. If you enjoyed learning about the 1975 Lincoln penny and its incredible value, don't forget to hit the like button, subscribe to our channel for more coin discoveries, and tap the notification bell so you never miss out on exciting finds. Thanks for watching, and happy collecting!